Hello, my name is Ben, and you're watching a Gears and Gasoline build video. This is my 2006 Evo 9 MR. If you missed our introduction video, check that out first, link in the description. I've had her stock since about late 2014, so I figured after 3 years it was finally time to start replacing the wear items, refreshing the used components, and gently modifying her to more closely fit my tastes. A disclaimer, we're going to be covering a lot of ground in this first entry of the build series. A lot of the stuff getting accomplished will be purely for the safety and longevity of my car, affectionately named Lana. It's not until we get a bit further into the video that the more exciting modifications will start happening, and at that point, we'll try and linger a bit more. With that being said, let's jump right in. The Mitsubishi Evolution, and perhaps all 4G63 powered cars in general, are notable for their relatively short intervals between timing belt services. While many manufacturers recommend that you switch out a timing belt only every 100,000 miles or so, Ben Subaru for example, Mitsubishi recommends that the timing belt be changed every 60,000 miles on the Evo. Lana is sitting about 100,000 miles, and I bought her at 70. So with no record of previous services, I assumed that the timing belt was original, and I got to work switching it out. I enlisted the help of former DSM guru and good friend Jerry Runyon, who knows 4G63s like the back of his hand. In exchange for a pack of craft beer, he helped me change out the timing belt, water pump, pulleys, and tensioners in a matter of hours, and we got Lana back on the road. Armed with renewed peace of mind about the safety of Lana's power plant, I contacted our good buddy Jermaine from TurboXS in Maryland. You may remember him and his shop from some of our videos about tuning. Filming those features made Jermaine's passion and knowledge for tuning extremely evident to me, and he was my first choice when it came to selecting a tuner. Despite having not worked on an Evo in years, he works on a lot of Subarus, Jermaine generously agreed, and an appointment was set in November. At this point, I had about a month to get Lana prepped for the tune, so I rented a tight little garage for my buddy Mark and got to work.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Evo build. This has been in the works for a while now, and as you can see, I started filming a little bit late. I already had the car up on jack stands and stuff, so it's a little bit disassembled, and I wish that I had started filming earlier, but it's never too late. So, what we need to do to the car in the next week or week and a half in order to get it out of here is we need to make sure that we have an oil pressure gauge hooked up, a wideband, and a boost gauge.
The reason I wanted these gauges installed is because being able to monitor boost, air-fuel ratio, and oil pressure is essential to ensuring that your performance car continues to run healthily and doesn't experience any catastrophic failures. But first, I needed to get something done about my brakes. Evos come from the factory with Brembo brakes, but they're evidently painted with a single layer of watercolor red. And just as sure as the sun will rise, so too will the paint on Evo Brembos fade and peel. Mine looked like hot trash, so I pulled them off and shuttled them to my buddy Nelson Savage of Savage Customs Creations in Richmond. Powder coating has the advantage of often being more durable than a wet paint and produces an even, thick finish, which is great for something like brake calipers. Nelson also does excellent work at a great price, so it was a no-brainer.
Brembos are finished, and I am just like so stoked. I'm just so happy. They look fantastic. I got them done in a blue called Playboy Blue, and I don't know, I think it's gonna look really, really tight with the white. But yeah, all new seals, very affordable. Nelson totally killed it. So I can't wait to get these home and put them on the car.
I reinstalled the brakes without having much issue, but bleeding them proved to be a bit more of a pain. The bleeding process itself was fairly straightforward, but getting back the pedal pressure was not. I bled the brakes 6 times, but the feel and pedal travel were always a bit off. It wasn't until I actually started to drive the car more later that I would actually get my pedal pressure back. Oil pressure is a fantastic reading to be able to monitor in a performance car, where your oil pressure both under throttle and at idle will tell you a lot about what's going on under the hood. Insufficient oil pressure, particularly under load, is something that will wreck a turbo or engine real quick and should be caught sooner rather than later. Luckily, the process for installing the gauge and sensor is extremely simple on an Evo. The oil filter housing is marked by a couple of little hex fasteners which can be removed to then tap an oil pressure line into. From my research, I was informed that tapping the sensor directly into the housing is a poor idea, as vibrations are the enemy of sensors, evidently. It's better to remotely tap the housing with a braided line like I used. Some Teflon tape and a couple of zip ties later, and the sensor was good to go. Removing a grommet behind the passenger side strut tower revealed a pass through the firewall that you can run a wire through. Using this hole, I threaded the oil pressure sensor wire through the firewall, behind the lower dash, and up the steering column to connect to the gauge. In order to install a wideband, I needed a bung to the downpipe through which to insert the actual wideband sensor. The pipe came off, and I took it to Ben, who actually knows how to weld.
Yeah, so we're welding a bung onto this downpipe, and I haven't welded in a while, so this is going to be interesting. But first I'm going to clean it off just to make sure there's no contaminants to make my welds look worse than they already are. And then we're going to drill a hole right on the top here where Ben tells me is the best spot for it, and weld on that bung. It rolled under the shelf. Holy cow, seriously?
So while Ben is down there doing that, the spot that I'm going to put my wideband bung is going to be right here. So basically, the exhaust is, or the downpipe is going to start like that. This is going to be towards the front, going up to the turbo housing, and then this is going to head back and meet with my mid pipe. And the reason I'm going to put it here, pointing up, is because you want to make sure. Yeah, it's going to. It's here. Can you actually hold that? It's going to be like here, and you want the sensor to point up to avoid condensation. That can like ruin the wire. So if it's like at a downward angle, then I guess it can condensate down where the wires are, but it won't condensate if it's pointing upwards. So once this is done, I'm going to have to take the pipe back to the garage and put the wideband sensor in, and then route the wire up through a little rubber grommet and into my cabin, and then route that into the gauge. So once that happens, that'll be pretty much it for the wideband.
With the gauges installed and the brakes refinished and back on, it was time to get the car out of the garage.
Okay, so we are in the car, me and my buddy Casey, who was kind enough to come up with me, and right now we're in New Jersey. We brought a little minivan, rented it for my buddy Matt, because we've got some car parts that we're picking up for the Evo, and it's about an 8-hour drive from Virginia up here, and I had to rent a van, but the reason was because it would be a huge hassle to ship it, and the parts wouldn't fit in something kind of smaller than a van, so here we are. And in a couple of minutes, we will be at the destination of my seller, and we can pick up the parts and check them out.
I met with Howard, my connection from Evolution M, the Evo form, who's a stand-up guy and a complete Mitsubishi diehard.
This is the 2006 Evo 9MR. You can see the canards I have, which aren't made anymore, by ARC. These are ARC. You see I have my SE lip. The car is MR, but I had to do the lip. Just had to do it. This is a pure Voltex hood. Let me take it all off for you. I have a Tommy Mackinnon shirt in here. This is Kenneth Erickson, who is not anymore, but he used to be the Rally Art test driver. And you know, when the Evos came out, he tested them first to make sure they were ready for Tommy Mackinnon, so on and so forth. Here they are. Evolution 7, they're made by Sparco. Mitsubishi commissioned these. There's only 75 sets made. You can see never worn. Still have the stuffing and all that inside. Over here you're going to see two Japanese signatures. This gentleman came specifically, he took a video and a ton of still photos of my garage here, because he said I have some stuff that they don't in their museum.
Howard's passion and enthusiasm for Mitsubishi is at a level I will likely never reach. As quirky a dude as he is, Howard is, in my opinion, the ultimate Mitsubishi fan, and I love him for it. So why were we in Jersey again? Oh right, I was picking up an OEM JDM rear bumper I bought from Howard, along with a new SE front lip, even though my car is also an MR.
So if you're not familiar with how JDM rear bumpers for Evos are, which why would you be familiar with that? They don't come painted from the factory anymore. Even if you get them OEM from Japan, they just come in like a black. They used to come in wicked white, which would have been perfect, but that's not the case anymore. So I have to take that to Richmond to get it painted by my paint guy, who you will meet later on, and then
I also got the front lip, and it's in a white, which might be the right white, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to get that painted also, just to be safe, to make sure that it matches.
It was off to paint within a week or so at my friend Paul's paint shop, Concept Color, also in Richmond. I dropped the bumper off with Paul, who would have the work turned around and completed in less than a week.
Hey there guys, it is December 26th. It is the day after Christmas, and got a little Christmas present for Lana. This is a fuel pump from the company Walbro. It is a Walbro 255. So this can flow 255 liters of fuel per hour, as opposed to the stock fuel pump in the Evo, which can flow, I've heard, around 200. So the goal here is we're gonna install this fuel pump so that we can flow more fuel, so that we can make sure that Lana can always run as rich as she needs to without leaning out. And then tomorrow we're gonna drive her up to TurboXS up in Maryland and get her tuned. This is kind of just a safety precaution. I think it should honestly be fine on a stock fuel pump, but I was talking to Jermaine, who's gonna tune it, and he wanted one in there just for safety, so we're doing it just for safety.
Installing a fuel pump, especially in an Evo, is a fairly straightforward process. The Walbro, and indeed other aftermarket fuel pumps from companies like Eashworks and so on, are typically OEM-style installs with no real curveballs to throw at you. I popped the fuel basket out of the tank, installed the new pump into the basket with a fresh fuel filter, and reinstalled. The fuel pump is a great peace of mind mod that helps ensure that you won't lean out while making more power.
Okay, so it is the 28th, so 3 days after Christmas. Done pretty much everything I have time to do to the car, and we are on our way to TurboXS up in Maryland, and today is the big tuning day. So yeah, Jermaine's gonna get the car on the dyno, and we're gonna see if we can smooth out the tune and just make maybe a little bit more power, but hopefully just get a nice smooth power band. So driving up now, and hopefully we don't catch on fire or anything like that. Should be good.
TurboXS is an OG in the tuner community here in the States. We love coming to hang out with these guys because they really do great work.
So we just got up to TurboXS up here in Maryland, and waiting on Maine, and then we're gonna tune the car. One thing that happened that I didn't get on camera, which I kind of probably should have gotten on camera, but it was super cold last night, the JDM bumper got on, so that's fantastic. It really changes the look of the car. I'm really excited about that. There's no, the USDM license plate bracket doesn't transfer over. It needs some fabbing, so I have the license plate back here. So we just drove like 3.5 hours with no properly mounted plate, so that was fun. But yeah, looks really good. The difference between the JDM and the USDM is, of course, like it's got this diffuser and it's just more flush to the body, so it's a little bit shorter. So I need to get a JDM size exhaust that's just inset a couple more inches. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty stoked on it. So now we're gonna tune it, and Lana's gonna be so happy.
Before putting the car on the dyno and actually starting the tune, Jermaine and I took the car out to make sure that everything was in good working order.
So Maine is driving the Evo before we tune it to kind of get a feel for how it's working, how it behaves at high boost, I guess. Any expectations?
Let's just make sure it's okay before we get on the dyno.
Yeah, that's fair. You feel like kind of breakup when it hits boost? What is that? Is that boost cut or?
I think you need spark plugs.
I love Jermaine, but I was certain that it wasn't an issue with the spark plugs causing the breakup under boost. I changed the spark plugs not too long ago, and I was certain that the issue was, in fact, being caused by a boost cut. I respect Jermaine's opinion, but he was just off the mark on this one.
Well, we figured out that you had some spark plugs that were a little beat up. And so what we did was, we replaced them with new spark plugs and regapped them. Made the misfire go away. Now the car revs through the RPM range, and we're gonna make some power.
As it turns out, I actually know nothing about tuning, and Jermaine is the expert, so I shouldn't have been surprised that he was totally right about the spark plugs. Many turbo cars benefit from an aftermarket boost control solenoid, such as this one from Grimspeed. Jermaine popped the stock control solenoid out and installed the Grimspeed unit. TurboXS uses a Dynapack, which measures power produced by a car using hydraulic pumps inside of each unit, rather than using rollers. Jermaine uses a system for its precision and finely tunable nature. Once Lana was mounted on the Dynapack, with a wideband of Jermaine's attached to the tailpipe and a vacuum line tapped into the engine bay, Jermaine got down to business.
So our first pull was 309 foot-pounds and 301 horsepower. It's not bad.
Was a low boost?
Boost was a little high. It was about 23 pounds
Okay.
at the peak, and they came down to about 17. So we're going to work on that quite a bit.
300 wheel horsepower was what I thought we might have wound up with at the end of the dyno session, not what we'd start with as a baseline. The session continued late into the night, with horsepower and torque creeping up as we went. Jermaine was less concerned with numbers and more concerned with how the power band and power delivery looked.
Trying to get rid of the spike, and I'm also trying to flatten out the air-fuel curve around 5,000 RPM. I want to settle in at around 11.5 AFR. I think we'll be good with that. Kind of hitting about 22 pounds, tapering off. We should have good numbers after that.
Right. So we're still getting more torque. Is that? Are you like how are we getting more power out of it?
I'm not trying to make more torque. It's just happened to make more torque at this point.
Okay, right.
So it's all because I'm playing with the boost control, to be honest. So
Okay, right.
once I fix the boost control where I want it, it should settle down and we should be almost done.
He tweaked values and graphs, doing pull after pull later and later into the night. When Jermaine finally finished, it was 10 p.m.
That's showing 314 foot-pounds and 336 horsepower. So we got you that at a peak boost of 22.9, and then it's coming down by a red line, 18.3. So relatively conservative, but that's a pretty good number.
That's an awesome number.
Yeah.
I'm really jazzed.
Yeah. Glad you're happy with it, man.
The final numbers, 336 wheel horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque. I was ecstatic.
I was really not expecting to see that much power out of it. I thought I was going to be closer to like 285 maybe. So I'm stoked. I'm like really pumped. I never really cared about power. I just kind of wanted to have like a smooth power band. But I think now I've kind of got both. So I'm really stoked on that.
But Jermaine wasn't done. We hopped in for a first drive, with Jermaine data logging from the passenger seat. Everything looked flawless, and the car was the best it had ever felt. With the tune finished and it being 11 o'clock at night, I thanked Jermaine profusely, and we packed up to start the long drive back home.
I'm just absolutely beside myself with enthusiasm right now. TurboXS is the place to take your car if you want to get it tuned in like the Nova area, the DC, Maryland area, because Jermaine just absolutely killed my tune. He did such a good job. We were there from like 2 until like 11 just with all these problems that my car was causing and us trying to figure them out, and he just like stayed there so late just to make sure that it was perfect. We did a ton of pulls on the dyno, and then he went out and road tuned it. I just cannot sing the praises of Jermaine and TurboXS enough. I'm so f***ing thrilled. I can't put that in the, I can't put that in the video. I'm so stoked though. The car just feels so fantastic. It pulls super strong through every gear, which is something that I haven't had in forever. Yeah, I'm thrilled. 336 wheel horsepower and 315 wheel torque or something like that. I honestly don't care. It's I mean, those are amazing numbers, but I'm just so stoked that it runs so smoothly. It has been a good December. I'm really stoked.
I genuinely cannot recommend the services of Jermaine and TurboXS enough. Jermaine keeping my car on the dyno for as long as he did, doing pull after pull, and ensuring before any tuning that it was running in tip-top shape, showcases his intense attention to detail. One of the most important aspects of any tuner, in my opinion, is that they care about the work that they're doing. Not only does Jermaine have over a decade of experience tuning, but he cares immensely about the quality of his work. I couldn't have asked for a better experience and will only have my car tuned by Jermaine and TurboXS from here on out. So that's it, guys. We've been on the road filming for a while, so the build is currently on a brief hiatus, but I've already got more stuff to show you, and a lot more modification and polishing is in the pipeline. I apologize for the scattered, slapdash nature of this build episode. Ben has much more experience with this than me, but future episodes should be more focused and polished. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to hearing what you guys have to think about the build so far and where you'd like to see it go. I look forward to reading your comments, and have a great day.